The Gospel of St. John, the 21st chapter, verses 15, 16, and 17 will be the focus and the fixation of our lesson. St. John 21, 15 through 17. The last time I stood before you, I posed a question of guilty or not guilty. And I hope that we are found guilty doing what is right and not guilty of doing what is wrong as it relates to the principle of love. Here you find these words, so when they had dined, Jesus saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs. And he saith unto him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus saith unto him, Feed my sheep. Before you take your seat, look to the left or the right of someone and tell them the love test. That's what I want to talk about. The love test. The love test. This is the third appearance of Jesus to his disciples post-resurrection. It is his third visitation towards his disciples who would now become apostles as he reveals himself to them for the third time. In the backdrop of this text, what you'll discover is that on the Sea of Tiberias, Peter, along with Thomas and Nathaniel, the two sons or brothers of Zebedee, and two other disciples whose name are not mentioned, make up 7 of the 12 that were together at this time. Peter had mentioned to them that I go a-fishing, and he collected 6 of them to go with him. They toiled all night, caught absolutely nothing, and towards the breaking of the day, Jesus is on the seashore grilling some fish and baking some bread. And he hollers out to them, have you caught anything? And they said, absolutely nothing. We caught nothing. Jesus gave them a final instructions and said, cast your net on this side of the boat, and there you'll find a catch. And the Bible says the nets did not break, and they enclosed 153 fish by one word that came from Jesus. The Bible makes plain to us that by the time they brought the nets in, brought the fish there, not one of them ever questioned whether it's that the Lord or not that spoke to them. Because the Bible said they dared not even ask the question because they knew it was Jesus. They knew it was him. And when John, the disciple who Jesus loved very much, says to Peter, he said, that's the Lord. They had this one-on-one conversation, and Peter immediately grabbed his fishing coat and clothed himself because he was fishing in the nude with the other 6 disciples. What kind of comfort level is that? that he could fish in the nude and nobody was disturbed. But when he heard that Jesus was there, he grabbed his fishing coat. Instead of going to the bottom part of the boat, he jumped in the water. You know, when you're caught doing something you ain't got no business doing, logic and good reasoning, all those things seem to dissipate. Jesus brings them to the place and says, sit down and dine. And this is what he does. He creates a social environment. He feeds them the fish. He gives them the bread. And after they had been filled, Jesus publicly, Shamity Meredith, he publicly looks Peter in the eye and says, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? And of course, we just read the text that Simon gave his response. The third time, he was irritated, to say the least. But what you have to pay attention to is the wordings, because Jesus, when he was with Jesus, Jesus called him Simon Peter. But now he calls him Simon, son of Jonas. Because Simon, son of Jonas, was the former behavior and not the latter behavior of Simon Peter. What Jesus was reaching for was that Simon had now began to regress and go back to his old nature. He had begun to go back to his old ways. Come on, let's go fishing. Jesus is risen from the dead. He had already given them assignments of what they're supposed to do, but now Peter is preoccupied with the past. Preoccupied with the formula of the familiar. Preoccupied with his skill set that made provision for him, but dismissive of the instructions that the Lord had given to him. So Jesus said, do you love me? And he said, I do. He said, then feed my lamb. Go back to pastoring. Go back to preaching. Feed my sheep. Go back to that. And notice Jesus didn't tell him to feed anybody until he first fed him. That after he had fed him and took care of his natural side of him, he challenges him in front of everybody. Now, this is the reason why the love test is so important, because he calls Peter out, because Peter previously said before Jesus was crucified that he loved him and he would not deny him 3 times. And Peter went on record 3 times in front of the other disciples that he would love Jesus so much that he would not only deny him, but he would be willing to die for him. And now Jesus confronts him, because there's something called the law of reciprocity. There's a law of reciprocity. You got to be very careful. You and I got to be very careful. We got to be very, very careful of what we put on record and what we put on public display. We got to be very careful of the things that we say and the things that we do with our lives, the presentations that we present before the people. We got to be very careful that we want to aspire to leadership and tell others to follow us. We got to be very careful that we maintain what we say and be who would say what we really are, because Jesus didn't confront the other 6 that was with Peter. He called Simon out because Simon was the one on record of saying that he loved Jesus more than the other disciples. And those of us who publicly have this notion that we love God more than people that's around us and go on record of saying it, love may show up one day and call you out on it. Because if you can publicly go around saying God is first and foremost in your life and he means the most to you, it may show up in front of everyone. Because what real love does, it confronts, it conversates, and then it challenges for change. That's what real love does. It confronts, and you're not dealing with real, pure, complete love if there's no confrontation of things that need to be dealt with. right? You cannot be elusive and evasive and cannot always dumb down and always turn one way and try to wiggle out something. I'm glad it's quiet because I need to stay right here for a moment, because oftentimes we have concerns in our heart, Lord have mercy, and we love people and love situations, but we don't have enough love to confront. So Jesus calls them out publicly. And he says, Simon, not Simon Peter, the rock, but Simon, son of Jonas, do you love me? Because his omniscience was at work. Because Peter says it in the third time. He said, thou knowest all things. You know that I love you. And all of us got love in our heart, but he may be calling us to another level of love, a greater, more mature level of love. Some of us have love, but it's infantile. Some of us have love, but it's phileo, and it's not agape. All right? Phileo is a love that has a kinship and a fondness. It is a brotherly type, a human type of love. But agape love is driven by principle that is associated with considerations and thoughts that is attached to sacrifices. Phileo love is always spontaneous, while agape love is more philosophical. Phileo love loves if the condition is right, if there's no argument, if there is no disagreement, if the person to whom I want to show this love to, then I'm okay with it. That's that phileo love. I can agree with the next leader if I like them, but if I don't like them, I don't agree with the decision. That's a phileo love. But an agape love is driven by principle that is not locked into personalities, it's locked into principles. And principles is what's going to get us from hell to heaven, from earth to heaven, out of our humanity to walk in his deity, real love. And we show our love based on our actions. So Peter is challenged in front of not only Jesus. He is not confronted only by Jesus, but he's also confronted in the face of the other ones, because Peter is the leader of all of them. You know, Peter's brazen, bold personality would not allow him to be quiet. And they're just people around you, no matter what, whether they know next to nothing. They're going to try to control everything going on because they don't have the ability to shut up and be quiet. And the old folks says that they won't know you're a fool if you don't open your mouth so much. If you just sit quiet and let people who know a little more than you, who've seen a thing or two, who know a thing or two more than you, let them take the platform and sit there and look smart, even if you don't know until you can catch up. Come on, sideswipe your neighbor right there for me. Lord have mercy. Sometimes you just can't be so outspoken about a thing and driven by the fondness and the warmness and the fuzzy feeling of the expression of your love, and not be driven by philosophical principles that's going to outdate and outlive and has no expiration date attached to what's next in your life. So he calls him out. He calls him by his former, because his latter personality now was being hidden. He was not acting like Simon Peter, the rock. He was acting like Simon Jonas with the knife. He was not acting like Simon Peter, who would be the chief of the apostles in the New Testament church. He was now acting like Simon Jonas, the one that'll cuss you out. And what this is indicative of is that you can be called, chosen, and in the body of Christ and can revert back to old behaviors. When you dismiss Jesus out of your company, when you don't stay in fellowship with Jesus, You can have reverend, doctor, deacon, trustee, missionary, mother besides your name. But if you don't keep Jesus at the centrality of your expression, you are subject to revert and go back to the old you. That's why there's some people that have been around the church for a long time and still have no transformation in their life because they have dismissed Jesus. And so Jesus stands up and said, wait a minute, Peter, I know I chose you right. I know I got omniscience, and I know God told me the 12 he gave me. I know you're part of the 12. I know it, but Peter, you ain't acting like you supposed to be acting. I go a-fishing, and then I'm going to fish in the nude. And I'm going to invite 6 other brothers with me. And feel no sense of shame until I recognize that the Lord is here. And those of us who really know the presence of the Lord, you know you don't have to be able to see him with your natural eye to know that he's still present. Some of us get on good behavior when certain people show up. But we ought to have good behavior in their absence. Come on, talk back to me. Yeah, the real test and truth of your character is not who you have in front of you, it's who not around you, how you act. Do I have a witness in here? Most of us are parents and grandparents and uncles and aunts, and we have instilled into our children certain principles. Lord have mercy, the worth of your teaching does not showcase itself when you're present with them. Do I have a witness in here? The real truth of your teaching showcases itself when they go off to school and they can remember the teachings that you've instilled in them. When they go to another country and serve this country or take a job in another state, and they can remember the things that you taught them. In your absence is how they act. Really showcase their love towards you. Y'all sit down a minute. And so he says to him the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, do you love me? He said, yeah, Lord, you know I love you. Then he said, feed my sheep. He said, do you love me more than these? Now, these can be interpreted multiple things. I think the primary thing that he was suggesting to Peter, do you love me more than these other disciples? Is one aspect. Or do you love me more than boats and fishing nets and fish? Do you love me more than the people that you hang out with? And do you love me more than the things that you choose to associate yourself with? Because if you can't love me more than these things, you will never reach to the potential and the capacity of being what I want you to be. And the truth of the matter is this, and I'm almost finished. You ain't got to beg nobody to do anything for the kingdom if they're in love with the king. When you gotta beg people to do the king's work, and we are children of the king, it's a sign that we don't love the king. When we gotta spend more energy telling saints to come to church, we don't have energy to get the sinners to come to church because the saints don't see it as a priority to love the king. Come on, high five somebody right there. Lord have mercy. If only you got enough courage, tell them love will confront you. Not only will it confront you, but it will conversate. It will conversate. It creates a dialogue. It will conversate. You don't just sit there and boil and get mad. When you really love somebody, you get on their calendar. Yeah. You run the risk of even having a disagreement, but love will conversate. Love will confront, but it will conversate. It don't confront with hostility to make anything that is hostile more hostile. It confronts, because we got to get this out, because we better than this. We've been taught better than this. The blood that runs through our veins come from the same source. We're better than this. We're serving the same God. We're better than this. We got to get rid of this thing that's between us, because love will conversate. High five somebody right there for me. If you ain't talking to the person that's rubbing you the wrong way, you ain't loving yourself or that person enough. If you're going to have dialogue about the situation with somebody else other than the person to whom you ought to be talking to. Simon Bar Jonas, do you love me? Do you love me? And all through the Bible, the Bible says, do it for my sake. Do it. Do it for Christ's sake. Do it for Christ's sake. Let me Hickserize that for you. That means that there'll be some moments when you get some hiccups in your life. There'll be some moments when you don't want to confront this and deal with this, but Jesus said, can you do it for me? Just do it for me. I wish I had a witness in here. I know it's rubbing you the wrong way, and I know you don't like it, but can you do it for me? I wish I had it. I know it hurts you, but can you do it for me? Can you tell that enemy you love them? Can you put your arms around them for me? I wish I had a witness up in here. Can you tolerate them for me if you love me more than these? Because if I'm first and foremost and the ultimate in your life, then you will do it for me. You might not be able to stand it, or stand the situation, or stand the personality, or stand the predicament, but because your love for God is so strong that your love outweighs the dislike that you have towards the situation and the circumstance, because you're in love with Jesus. So the third time Jesus says to him, Simon Jonas, do you love me? And Peter really began to showcase himself, because if Peter can get mad with Jesus, there ain't no hope for those that's around him. And when you start getting to a place where you can disrespect Jesus, people around you in trouble. I wish I had a witness in here. Yeah, if you can start disliking Jesus and not love Jesus, the people around you ain't got a chance of being loved by you. That's why people get irritated so fast, because the reason why they get irritated so fast is because they ain't got enough love of Jesus being operative in their life. Because when you start really falling in love with Jesus, you can tolerate some stupidity. You can tolerate some flaws. You can tolerate some bad mistakes. Then you ain't got no nerve walking around here holding somebody hostage because they made a mistake. Yeah, they wrong. Yeah, they did it. Yes, it was wrong. But how dare you and I walk around here holding stuff on somebody when we got a truckload and a closet full? I'm amazed how people can walk in unforgiveness and want it. How dare we? How dare we? How dare we walk around with this attitude, being irritated, and then when they die suddenly, I wished. God, Lord, if you just give me one more chance. Say, Lord, if you had just, Lord, I just wished I had picked the phone up and called. God, I wish I had stopped by and just saw him. My God, I wish I wouldn't allow these small things to get in the place of what's bigger than that. I wish I had a witness in here. It's not the big things the devil gonna get us up on. It's the small things. It's the foxtails that's gonna get us. It's the mosquitoes that's gonna get us. I wish I had a witness in here. Lord, Henry, that's why while you got a chance, you better love while you have a chance. And I'm not talking about phileo. I'm talking about agape. Yeah, you're wretched. Yeah, you're tore up. Yes, you got ways about you I can't stand. Yes, you're selfish. Yes, you're inconsiderate. Yes,
You're impatient, but I'm going to love you until I can love a portion of hell out of you. I wish I had a witness up in here. Lord have mercy, because in my presence, I ain't going to let you go to hell freely. I'm going to love you right back into the kingdom. I'm going to love you right back into fellowship. I'm going to love you right back into the graces of God. I'm preaching and teaching better than some of you all responding, because you want to shout your way. And I don't care how warm and hot the worship is, the worship means nothing if the worship don't liberate you, to transform you. Lord have mercy, I don't care how much we shout. If your shouting don't translate to love, then we had a great time in church here. That's all we did was topical. So all we did was holler and shout and felt good, and you still walking around here with your mean self. Coming into the presence of God and getting into the act of worship ought to change me. I came in here with an attitude. Once I got in the presence of the Lord, he changed my attitude because he lifted me to a new altitude. I wish I had a witness in here. Lord have mercy, and if I got a rat mentality, the only way I can get rid of a rat mentality, I got to start flying with eagles. Y'all sit down, please. I'm out of here in a few. The love test, first of all, he tells you, see if your former outweighs your latter. Since you've been around Jesus all this time and been in church all this time and got the promotions in the kingdom, wherein people have seen good things in you and have affixed a title to your name, and they have now leveled some level of expectation upon you, see if the former outweighs the latter. Because if the former is greater than the latter, you have already regressed. He calls him out because of a law of reciprocity, because Peter would have no reason to be called out publicly if he had not already boasted publicly, Lord, I love you more than all these around me. Lord, I love you so much that I ain't going to deny you. I'm willing to die for you. And let me say something to you. Let me say something to myself. You better know this. Lord Henry, that's why it's not left up for you and I to create any kind of revenge or try to pay back anybody about anything. There's a law of reciprocity. If people mishandle you, don't fret, don't worry. Lord have mercy. If they disrespect you, don't fret, don't worry. Lord have mercy. If they mean and nasty, don't worry. I promise you, before they exit this earth, they're going to run into themselves. They may not ever come back and apologize to you, but they're going to run into a Hellion and a Viking just like you used to be a Hellion and a Viking. I wish I had a witness in here. Don't you fool yourself. If people don't give you the courtesy and the respect, don't get uptight and mad about them disrespecting you. I promise you, Lord have mercy, they're going to have a situation that they're going to run into somebody that's going to treat them the very same way they treated you. Take comfort in the fact that what goes around will come around. Take comfort. When you stand around whispering about people, talking about people, and conspiring about people, somebody sitting right there talking about you. Somebody sitting there conspiring about you. You think you feel all good and all, and you think you vindicated and got recommendation among people, and somebody whispering at you, look at them, they ain't all what they think they are. I wish because if you are a miniature model of what's universal. If you can complain, others can too. If you can dislike, others can too. If you can disrespect, others can too. You're not going to get out of this life without some payback. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That's not in heaven. That's not in eternity. That's here and now. And some of the stuff we're going through right now ain't got nothing to do with the devil. It's a harvest Look at somebody and say, it's a harvest. 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 And you trying to label it the devil against, see, God is promoting me and the devil is fighting me. No, God said, I'm whipping you. I'm reminding you this is what you used to be like and this is what you used to do. Lord, you used to talk about people when they had babies outside of wedlock. Now that your little darling got pregnant, now all of a sudden you want to join the other side. Talking about y'all need to be kind and thoughtful and merciful. Lord, have mercy because they do make mistakes. I wish you had that mercy when my child got pregnant. I wish I had a witness up in here. All of a sudden, now that it happens to you, now all of a sudden you want to join the other side. Preach, Bobby Hicks. That's why I'm careful. If I see a spider crawling in my garage, I'm about to start, then I think about it. I can imagine if I was that spider. Here come this 6'2", 200-something black person about to step on me. I said, go on and live another day. Just don't come in the house. You ain't invited. But go on and live. I take a broom and sweep him away. Say, go on. Go on. Get away from here. I wish I had a witness in here. Just about every night, there's this frog that shows up at my garage door. This frog sits right there in the middle where I got to park. This frog shows up every night just sitting there leaving droppings. I just take my feet and say, go on, Hoppy, go on, man. Just change address. Leave here. I wish I had a witness in here because there's a law of reciprocity. That's why you got to be very careful. Don't you reach all the way over to shake somebody else's hand, and don't speak to this other person, because the person that you're overreaching might fool around, walk into some big money someday. I wish I had a witness in here, and you might need a financial blessing. Lord have mercy. I wish I had a witness. That's why I speak to everybody, because I want to be kind to everybody, because I don't know where my next blessing is coming from. I wish I had a witness in here. You better treat the dog right, the cat right. You better treat the young people right, the old folk right. You better treat the nasty people right, the kind people right, because there's a law of reciprocity. I got to close. I got to close. Peter made this declaration, so Jesus had to deal with him publicly. I close by telling you, in John chapter 21, we see this question asked. Something must correct it, Peter. Because over in the next chapter, we see him standing up in the book of Acts, preaching the gospel. With one sermon, 3,000 souls being added. A beggar showing up at the temple, saying, give me of your alms. And Peter says, I ain't got no money, man. Silver and gold, I got nothing, but I got a power and I got something that the world don't know anything about. Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, I give unto you. I'm going to give you something more than $1. You've been begging all your life. You've been crippled. But today, you're going to go home and be able to walk under your own power. Do I have a witness in here? Lord have mercy. The love that was in Peter then, he says, look on me. Do I have a witness in here? And that's what love will do. It's so bold and so courageous enough that you can tell somebody to look on your character. Look on your persona. Look on what God has done for you. Look on me. You can't see Jesus for yourself, then look at me, because I am a written testimony of what Jesus can do. I wish I had a witness in here. Look on me. Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, give I unto thee in the name of Jesus. Get up and walk. And he that was crippled got up, did more than walk, but the Bible said he leaped and he hopped and he danced, Because love will make the difference. New home, I tell you. Above all our shouting, above all our skill sets, above the anointing on your life, if you cannot intentionally practice love, and this takes will and effort, it doesn't come by automation. And the proof of your love is not you loving the people you like. The proof of your love is that you're hugging somebody you can't stand. I wish I had a witness in here. That's the proof that God is doing something with you. Anybody in here other than me love the Lord? Anybody here love how the Lord has been working in your life? I told you the last time, your love should be an expression towards others based on the fact the love you've received from God himself. And if you've received a lot of love from God, you ought to be showing love. I love God. You love God? You don't love God? What's wrong with you? I love God. I love God. I wish I had a witness in here. I love the fact that he picked me up when I was dirty. I love the fact that he washed me up and made me clean. I love the fact that he knew I was already disqualified and he certified me in spite of. I love the fact that I blow it often. Do I have a witness in here? But he protects me and covers me and watches over me and give me another opportunity. You want to find somebody and say, do you love God? I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you? Lord have mercy. I love him so much that he drives me to keep calling on his name. I love him so much that I trust him in dark moments. I love him so much that my heart is bent towards the heavens. I love him so much. He's been bread on my table and water in my cup. I love him so much. Bye-bye, good world. See you later. In the world, in the midst of many voices, in the midst of so many voices, I choose the Lord again and again and again, because the only one that can bring you out is Jesus. The only one that can keep you while you're in it is Jesus. The only one that's going to hold you when others drop you is Jesus. High five somebody for me. Look them in the eyes and say, you don't love God? I love God. What's wrong with you? Am I right about it? When I think of his goodness, when I think of his mercy, when I think of all the things he's done and continue to do, I believe I'm going to serve the Lord. You have a witness in here. I'm bound for Mount Zion, way out on a hill. Do I have a witness in here? If the mothers don't make it, surely I will. If the preacher don't make it, surely I will. If the evangelist don't make it, surely I will. If New Home don't make it, surely I will. Is there any Jesus lovers in here? Love the Lord. Love him with your whole heart. Love him.